Hey everyone, it's Anwar Cobblers Plus, and today we've got a pair of Justin Western boots made out of elephant skin. Come check out what we're going to be doing on them today. So in today's video, we've got this pair of old Justin boots that are made out of elephant skin. These are definitely a much older pair. This was before Justin redid a bunch of stuff and everything. So these were one of those old models that they built very well. Today we're going to be resoling them with a pair of JR soles with an interesting color option that the gentleman wanted at the end, if you want to check it out, but I don't know yet. You might actually see it in the thumbnail, who knows. We'll see what I do afterwards when I'm doing all the video editing. But for now, as you can tell, these have definitely seen better days. There's a hole right here that's going through, a few spots here and there that are worn out. It's kind of wearing thin here. Now this I want to point out to anyone who's not familiar on being able to identify when it's time to resole them. Obviously, when you get a hole that wears through right here, you want to resole it at that point. Now I've got another light here. Let me readjust. I'm trying to test. Sorry, I was trying to test something out. I've got this light over here. I'm gonna switch it off for you to see. There, see, it's darker now. It's lighter. I had a few people say that it's a little dark. I know. I'm sorry. It's still a work in progress here at our shop after the move and everything, trying to figure out where we want lighting and everything. Luckily, I've got a few overhead above me, but it looks like I might need to put one more above me facing this workbench. Currently, I have a light facing on this side of this table here, parallel to it, and on the opposite side as well. But right at this workbench, my main one, Big Bertha, as I like to call her, unfortunately, I don't have one sitting parallel to it and lower, so I'm gonna have to try to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. Either it's going to be LED lights like this little light that I have up here right now, it's just one of these guys like that, or if I'm gonna go with the lights that I like to use. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it works out okay. Hopefully I figure something out about it. But anyways, back to the boots that we're working on. Now, obviously, when you have a hole like that, definitely time to resole and replace the soles on these. But this one here is a perfect example of, there's no hole in the sole yet or anything, and it's time to resole them just because you're about to wear a hole in them. But what you can do is press down on it, and if it feels kind of soft, spongy, it bounces like that there, that automatic indication, as you can see, I'm pressing down. Sorry, I need my fingernails cut. We just had a baby over the weekend at the time of this recording and everything, and so I'm running on fumes as far as being able to do things around the house, in other words, including cutting my own fingernails. But apologies about that. But anyways, like I said, if you press down right here and it just bounces around like that easily, it's really soft. Definitely an indicator that it's time to get those. Sorry on the interruption. Kind of already forgot where I was at. Had a few customers coming in, and I'm here by myself today. But where did I even leave off? Where did I leave off? Come on, somebody help me. I'm having again, I'm kind of not all here. Sometimes, like I can work just fine, but certain things I have trouble remembering. When I'm in the middle of a conversation, I have to stop and do something and I forget. That's what happens when you have kids. This is our third one already. First girl. Terrified. I have no idea what to expect with a girl. I'm used to boys, not girls. So, but anyways, enough about my personal life. So today we're with these ones. Obviously, like I mentioned, we're going to be doing the JR leather soles, and it's going to be an interesting one just because, again, these are an older Justin. And I actually just had a customer who was trying to drop off another pair of older Justins, and she didn't end up leaving it. They were for her son. She didn't leave them because they said that they can get a new pair for, you know, the price of the resole. Obviously, yes, because the newer Justins, and I don't want to dog them, but they have significantly gone downhill. They have really started cutting corners using cheaper quality materials significantly. Where these old ones, this one's going to be a fun one. We're going to really see what the insides are like on these old ones. Now, I know majority of them, what they're like on the inside, but there may be some twists and turns sometimes. This particular Justin here, it's the model style model number 8528. And there's not much listed on there, you know, about this particular model. So we're gonna check it out and see what it's like. So obviously we're gonna start out by removing the heels. Get me my tools out. Now the heels, it looks like they have definitely been replaced. It has a Built-Right heel, which is an older company that's no longer around. This particular brand of heel, I mean, they were great back in their day, but eventually other companies started coming out with better options and alternatives, and yeah, so they eventually closed down. I mean, you got great brands out from Vibram, GTO, Caselli, Svig, Goodyear, even Soltec has some decent products too as well. You know, some of you cobblers that might be watching, you know about Soltec. Some people don't like Soltec. It's not bad. It's not bad stuff, definitely. You know, but definitely better than what Built-Right stayed at. Unfortunately, they never wanted to evolve too much with the quality of the material. Now, these ones you can see right here, there's so much edge dressing, so much. It's just cracked and dyed. This is why you want to do things in moderation. When you do edging, now this isn't done. The edging isn't done here by a cobbler. It looks like whoever owned these previously, or the current owner, or whoever it might have been, they may have done an extensive amount of edge dressing. To the owner of these boots, if you are the one, I'm sorry to say, but you gotta cut down on that edge dressing, please. There's a lot there, and it's just like cracking and everything. You know, clean it off, use some Saphir Reno mat or some light sanding. Always helps with that. Person who owns these, he actually watches our videos. Let me grab my toluene here. Just a solution to help deactivate the adhesive. There's not much, basically, just because these are fairly dried out already at this point. I'll put some down in here a little bit around these areas. Now we are also changing out the heel blocks on these. The gentleman who owns these, he doesn't want that Western style heel where it's slightly slanted. He wants a straight cut, more like a walking heel. So we're going to be tossing these heel blocks anyways. They're kind of rotten. Even if he didn't end up wanting to change out the heel block on them, I'd probably still recommend replacing these with a stacked leather, because these ones are not leather. They're a fiberboard. And they are, as you can tell, just falling apart. So, okay, yeah, it looks like they've been reheeled a number of times. As you can tell, there are nails sticking out because these are the Western style heels with the washers. You run nails into them by hand. But underneath here, you can see going on, there's these wood pegs. They're called lemon pegs. You can sometimes see them here. A lot of cobblers use them to fill in old holes. If a heel has been replaced a number of times, eventually those holes just get so big that nails have nothing to grip on, so they fill them in with lemon pegs. Sometimes we do that too if somebody doesn't want to replace the heel block. They're like, no, just replace the top lift heel one last time and that's it. And then you can see a lot of these old nails that are sanded out, that weren't pulled and everything. Some of them may be nail heads going in, like these ones. Those look like Yeah, at least one of them looks like a staple, possibly. And that's from the factory. Factories, when they're putting together the heel blocks, they'll run a staple or two just to kind of hold everything together while the adhesive is curing. So these definitely have been rehealed at least plenty of times. Soles, it looks like, have been redone. Yeah, it looks like maybe at least once. We won't know until we have the soles off completely. We won't be able to tell for sure roughly how many times, if it's been just one time that they've been resoled or a number of times. But okay, set these aside. Trusty heel pry out. Anybody that's never seen this before, this is what's called a heel pry. It's a slightly angled tool like this. It's got a slightly beveled edge there, not too sharp, not like a knife, but the closest thing this is to is a screwdriver, but it has that angle so that we can pry off heels. Now it is technically a multi-tool, and I actually had somebody comment on one of my videos saying that a multi-tool, is not a tool meant for the task. It's supposed to, it just does a bunch of small things. Well, we call this a multi-tool just because we're able to get into places. It's a pry. If you were to describe this tool as doing one task, it's a pry. It pries things open for us. It's just called a heel pry because most commonly it's used as for prying off these heel blocks. So just wanted to mention that, but otherwise it is designed to do a number of things for us. But the key thing that it does is prying things open, off, or just prying into it. Man, that heel block is just falling apart. Okay. Good thing we were replacing that. That thing is just wanting to really shatter. Sometimes heel blocks, if they're fiberboard material like this, they'll start to come apart, but this one's really just badly falling apart. Like, it's not going to withstand another resole and try to save this heel block type of thing. For anyone that doesn't know, almost all of us cobblers, we used stacked leather heel bases or heel blocks, whatever you want to call them, from the factories. I'd say 80%, well, probably closer to 70% of companies out there use this fiberboard stuff. And it's not actual leather, really. It's basically pressed paper particles. In other words, there might be a hint of leather in there too, like shavings and dust, but not enough to consider it leather. So these things, unfortunately, it is more cost effective. It is actually also lighter weight too, but durability wise, as you can tell, this thing is just not holding up whatsoever. So I'm gonna take out these wire nails and set this heel block aside just in case, if I need to use it for any form of measurement for when we're replacing it with new ones. I mean, I could do it without, check the angle, the pitch, and height and everything just fine without it, but I like to hang on to those just in case something comes along, because I've had that instance where I threw out a heel block and I realized, shoot, I still needed to measure that angle or something because it was a little bit different on that particular pair of shoes, and man, did I regret it. Jeez. So what we have in these, I'm going to show everyone real quick. These are what are called wire nails. It's like the name implies, it's just a roll of wire, and we have machines called auto solers. You may have seen it in one of my previous videos, but it basically just runs these nails that are coming out as a wire into the heel block. Sometimes they're used on certain areas on the toe on certain types of boots and shoes, but they're just nails basically is what they turn into. But whoever reattached this heel block, they didn't do it right. Typically, Western boots, we reattach them from the inside here with gripper nails, but there are some cobblers, in order to cut corners, time, and cost as well, they'll use an auto solar and just nail it in. And this guy really went crazy with it. I already pulled 2 out of the heel block there, and we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 2 of them are literally bunched up into each other. That's a little much. Too much nails is not a good thing. It might sound good, extra nails, hold it on better. Creates more holes, much more holes. More holes is not good. But I'm gonna pull these out because these were nailed in through the top. That's why I can pull them out through the top. And if you have seen my previous videos, any of you who have watched them, I usually pull the nails in from the inside of the boot. I go inside here and take them out. Well, these are just wire nails like that. There are no heads on it, and they were added to the heel block from the outside. So there's no way I can even be able to find them from the inside of the boot. But for any of you that watched my previous ones, again, like I said, typically heel blocks are glued and then secured with the nails from the inside here. So when it comes time to remove the nails, we have to go back in from the inside and remove them that way. Much safer, creates less problems long term. And yeah, but these ones were added in from the top. Now, that's one thing that I like to say that sets us apart from a lot of cobblers, and there's a handful of other cobblers out there that have the same exact philosophy. You bring a pair of boots, pair of shoes, or whatever it is to us, we're not trying to just fix or repair these boots or shoes for you to have, 1 more year, 2 more years. The thing that we strive for, us cobblers, we strive to have these boots last you for decades. That's what we want. That's what we're after. A good cobbler, that's their aim. They're expecting these boots to last for decades, if not generations even. I mean, these boots, elephant skin, properly maintained, properly cared for, properly repaired and refurbished, they'll last for multiple generations, hands down. Now, obviously, these do need a little bit of TLC and weren't taken care of by the previous cobbler the proper way, but we'll take care of it and do the best we can for him, and hopefully this gentleman will get 1, 2, maybe 3 decades out of these. So we're gonna get them done right for him, but that's why we take those extra steps to remove the nail heads. Some cobblers actually don't, and we're gonna find out today if the previous cobbler did. So let's let me go get my knife real quick. It seems to be on the other. All right, so I had to grab my rip knife, kind of a shorter blade knife like that at a slight angle, and this is going to help me. Ooh, sorry about that squeak. I don't like this jack stand here. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm getting used to it, but I still prefer my other one. Unfortunately, I decided, well, not unfortunately, but I decided to give up that better jack stand for one of our guys that works here, because he pushes out a larger quantity of work than I do, because I'm doing multiple things all at once. I've got the computer here. Sometimes I have to respond to messages or, do shipments and run out to the front. So I'm a little bit slower than him. So I was like, all right, guy's faster than me. He's concentrated on strictly only repair work. That's all he does. He doesn't go to customers or answer calls. So I think he deserves the better jack stand. Hopefully one of these days I'll be able to hunt down another one for myself like that at a decent price, because otherwise they are very expensive. But just to give you an idea, so this is how we're splitting it open right here. So we're splitting the sole from the welt right there. The welt is on top. That's what the sole gets stitched to. So with this knife, we're separating the sole's bond with that adhesive. That's why we use the thinner in there, thinning agent, and we're using the knife also at the same time to cut through the stitches as well. Now, there's another way some cobblers do it too. Some cobblers will sand that out right around the edges where the stitches are, and then afterwards pull it off and then pull the stitches. I don't like doing it that way. It ends up leaving little knots in the stitch, so when you end up finally pulling it, it stretches out the hole in the welt area a little too much, and so I prefer not to do it that way. And then some cobblers don't like doing it the way I'm doing it. You know, my father actually, he hates doing it this way. He's had this knife that I'm using right now slip off so many times, and he stabbed himself in the hand. He actually got himself in the gut once. Yeah, so, but me, I'm comfortable with it. As you can tell how I'm standing to the boot, I got my body on this side and the knife is on this side, and I hold it very close so that even if I do slip off somehow, majority of my hand is blocking off the knife, so if it does slip off, I already have a bit of a reaction to kind of like twist that knife on me, so I won't end up stabbing myself. Fingers crossed. Haven't yet, and I've been doing this quite some time already. Alright, look at this. Looky. Taking me 1 second. See, now we'll go back to the heel pry. Gotta lift up this back end a little bit off of the heel rend. You'll see what that heel rend is that I'm talking about. But I gotta pry this up a little bit. Otherwise I'm gonna take off the sole with this heel rend that some of you might not know about. Some of you might. There we go. And I'm gonna need to do some fixing up a little bit in there. So we'll start with what I have here in my hand for now. So first things first, it looks like whoever the previous cobbler was that worked on these, they definitely didn't replace that cushion. They just put it back in there. But I can tell you that they were resold, because that adhesive right there is not used by manufacturers. It's used by cobblers, just from the feel of it and the particular coloring on it. So I can tell you that much for sure. Also the way everything is attached and secured, the nails, yep, and the heel rend and everything, all of that is sanded out in a certain way. So yeah, definitely had a little bit of work done on them, but I'll take care of it. Right here, that's where under that arch area where the upper connects, looks like these nails are just popping out completely, and that happens often actually with Western boots if the welt only goes around the ball of the foot area there. So this back area is just nailed in using clinch nails, which are little brass ones like that turn into a hook once you hammer them, and sometimes they just need to be pulled out and replaced. Sometimes we can hammer them back. It looks like there's some of that wire nail sticking out here too. I hate this stuff. Come on. There we go. Yeah, so they used a little bit of the wire nail underneath the heel block too. That's annoying. Why would you do that? But overall, as far as the boot, aside from where I worked on them before, it's kind of interesting that they have a plastic shank in here. That is interesting, actually. The newer ones, it's expected. You know, they'll either have a plastic shank or, you know, something else, basically. But an older pair like this, I mean, this is a really old style of shank. Like, they haven't had this particular one in quite some time, so that's kind of interesting there. But, hey, it's the way it goes, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up this back area so I don't keep wasting everyone's time too much with all that. But I'm going to pull out some of these nails here like that. They're already starting to kind of corrode there, and just pop out easily without even using pliers or anything. And then kind of clean out that area there and run some new nails in after I glue it. Obviously I gotta get in there and glue it, pull out the extra nails and all that, and go from there. I still gotta do the other boot as well. Oh, and I forgot to mention the heel rend, or rand, ren, whatever you want to call it. I can't pronounce it properly, apparently. But this is what it is. It's this plastic piece right here. A lot of companies use plastic. That's fairly normal. Doesn't mean that it's cheap. High-end boots also, even custom-made bespoke boots, same thing. They'll use a plastic. Sometimes they'll use leather. Sometimes they use a fiber board, which that's the worst one, I would say. Now the heel ren here in particular, it's really designed to just kind of be a guide, in other words. So that when you're putting the sole on, it gives you that guide to get it to match up, and also it gives it a little bit of reinforcement. In other words, once you glue this on, that heel ren is already nailed, and when you run extra nails in here underneath that heel block, that heel ren gives a little bit of reinforcement for the nails to grab hold of, because sometimes that leather starts to give out, or just rot or something. The heel ren doesn't quite rot because it's a plastic, so it's definitely an extra good reinforcement for getting those nails to clinch nicer and grip better too. So very important to have, although not all boots have it. I've come across a handful of boots brand new from the factory that didn't have that as well. It's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing. It's kind of like in between, basically. Having the heel rend is definitely a big plus. Not having it happens, just depends on the model or design or particular company, but gives it a little bit of an extra plus. So if you're shopping for boots, keep an eye out for that thin little plastic piece. Try to show it up here a little bit closer. It's this right here. See, it's coming unglued, which is fine because plastic doesn't want to adhere to leather very easily, but that's normal. If you see that little section coming up on your boots like that, just kind of coming unglued, there's a gap, you're safe. It doesn't mean your boots are falling apart. You just got to keep in mind that's plastic that we're trying to adhere to leather, and plastic doesn't like adhering with leather all that easily. So, but it's going to stay in place. It's not going to come apart because you've got your staples, you've got your clinch nails, you've got your gripper nails, all surrounding that one heel rend here, whether it's plastic or leather or fiberboard. It's going to stay in place. It's just extra reinforcement for all those nails. That's all it really is. All right, so let me go ahead and get all the rest of it taken care of. I'll show you afterwards how I fixed up this one. If I come across anything else in the meantime with this boot here, I'll be sure to show you. But for now, let me get through this boot here and fixing up this little area. Again, all I'm going to do is get in there, clean it out some, and glue it. Once the glue's set and dried a little bit, I'm going to run some of those clinch nails in and go. Okay, so we got everything together, ran some nails right there. The other sole, I didn't really have too much issues underneath here. Nothing was really coming apart, so it was perfectly fine. I did take out the shanks the rest of the way because they were just barely hanging in on both boots, and re-glued them all. I did also notice that there are some areas here inside these boots, maybe this one is more visible, there's a little bit of cork in some of these spots. So that shows to me that originally these actually had cork in them from the factory, but the cobbler who resold them used this foam stuff, which it's great, I guess you can say, in a way, just like out of the box type of thing, or when you put them on the first time, they're nice and cushioned. But this foam, unfortunately, one, it is synthetic, and two, once it does fall apart, it really goes. So synthetic meaning it doesn't breathe as well as cork does. Cork we always use as a filler to fill in this area here, because the ball of the foot sits there. You're also going to feel that little area here where the Goodyear welt is stitched and everything. So cork has to fill in that gap area so that it doesn't irritate the foot on that little lip there from the area where the Goodyear welt is stitched. And cork adds insulation, it wicks away moisture, and once it's broken in, it really helps accommodate the foot nicely with support features on it. And so it's kind of a shame that they went ahead and went for the foam stuff, but the foam is a little bit cheaper, so that could be the case there. Just thought I'd point that out. As far as the nails that we used for resecuring this area here, that was the only part that was coming apart. We used these type here. They're almost like a clinch nail. They're just a little bit shorter and have a wider head on them there, so that it doesn't end up falling through the hole, or you know, doesn't create a larger hole or anything like that if it ever comes back off. So that's what we ended up using, and it's just 3 of them, not much. I mean, you don't really want to put too much. Again, sometimes less is more. If I put too much of these, then when it comes to running these nails in here through the sole, they're going to start hitting the heads of those other nails, and it just turns out a huge mess. So thought I'd point that out. The other thing is I did trace out the soles here to try to get that JR leather sole as center as possible and cut it out. It's an aesthetics thing, nothing major. So you know, if I didn't trace it out, I could still do it that way too. It's just that the JR logo might not be as centered, and it's never perfectly centered. I mean, you're not going to be able to get it 100% down to the fraction. Sorry about the interruptions again, but anyways, at this point I'm going to go ahead and actually clean these up before I do anything else. I'm going to be using a vinegar based cleaner to get them all cleaned up. After that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and grab my Big 4. I mean, Big 4 in general, obviously, if you've watched my videos, if you're familiar enough with me, I'm a huge fan of Saphir products, which are like these ones here. We've got the Saphir Medal Dior Renovator Cream, or Renovatoire, in other words, and we'll use that at the end, obviously, on these for Saphir, but during the repair process, I really want the leather to be a little bit moisturized, and I'm gonna have to clean them up beforehand. So I'm gonna grab my vinegar based cleaner nylon brush and just kind of scrub them over, set them aside to dry. Once they're all dried, then I'll use the Big 4 to restore the nutrients so that there's a little bit more flexibility to be able to work on these. And then we'll be picking out all these stitches here where the Goodyear welt is. I'm not going to show that too much. We're going to refill this with cork, not that foam stuff, and we'll continue on basically. Did also, if you notice that right there, I was grabbing these with pliers and the leather is so dried out and rotten it just ripped. So just thought I'd show that off real quick, that it's all beaten up. Oh, and this other shoe here, the second one that I did, or boot, I mean, the right one, previous cobbler ran even more wire nails into that heel base. What the heck? How many nails, wire nail, do you need? There was 15 or 16 in the right boot. The other one had, what, 11, I said? Yeah, so why? Whatever. I mean, at least it didn't do any kind of structural damage underneath. They only went into the sole. That's as far as they really went. They didn't go past the sole too much, you know. So, but go ahead and take care of the rest and go from there. So we'll see you back. You guys wondering what this is? It's desalter, vinegar, water, and a little bit of easy cleaner mixed in there. Helps deactivate a lot of the sweat, moisture that was causing some previous damage. I don't really show this much on my videos, but I actually do this very frequently on Resole and Recraft videos. Well, not on the videos, but off of them. So I thought I'd show everyone. And I also do the bottom while there's no sole on here. Some people might be like, why? Well, because you get sweat buildup in there. And for anybody that's wondering, no, I do not spray it on the insides. This has vinegar in it. it'll eventually, the smell will go away. But on the inside of the boot, no, it does not want to go away. Now, typically, I also do the same thing with the heel pads or insoles that we take out, which these came out of this boot, but they were aftermarket ones anyways, and they're kind of cruddy looking. So I'm just going to set them aside here in my little container for that particular order, just in case. So thought I'd show that. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just let them dry. I want to show that a little bit. Next comes the Big 4. I'll be back in just a little bit. Maybe I'll do a little bit of ASMR. Maybe you guys don't want to listen to me talk so much. What do you think? Comment down below. Let me know. Do you want some ASMR videos of mine? I don't know. I talk too much. Feel horrible leaving everybody in the dark of what I'm doing about it. So if you just want me to be quiet during the whole process and just do a whole recraft video, let me know. You might enjoy it, and maybe I don't have to talk so much and keep drinking a bunch of water and having to go pee all the time because of it. Feels good. Alright everyone, so I'm back here again. I apologize, I did forget to record before I put on the sole, or during the process at least. But underneath we did end up replacing the cork, obviously, right here on the ball of the foot, since the welt doesn't go further back like a 270 or a 360 degree welt, or 280. Now I forgot about that one. But we got Marcus over here, and Marcus Fisher. If you guys haven't checked him out, he's laughing at me. But because I have been having brain farts about it right now. But anyways, like I said, got that cork replaced right here, and typically the cork doesn't go back any further here on this type of build. So at this point, regardless, we're ready to trim them up. We've got the trimmer here, and then we've got our sander down here. I'm going to be trimming most of it and then just touching it up a little bit in a few areas, just because these do like to catch. I have a semi-new blade on here that's fairly sharp, and this thing just loves to catch right at that toe and just yank the whole boot out of my hand. So we're going to go through as much as we can and then touch it up here. A few cobblers out there, I know, that strictly just use the trimmers and never sand it or whatever. You know, that's fine. You know, it's personal preference, whatever everyone is more comfortable with, or on the machines too. It depends on them too. Tools have a great effect on it, and this is basically a tool for this machine. So different features have different machines, different tools, and different comfort level, in other words, will vary from cobbler to cobbler, and I'm just explaining that to show you what I do. I did also grab some pre-stacked leather heel bases here that we'll also be marking up here to replace, because the other ones were just shot completely. Obviously, we weren't anticipating to have to replace the heel bases, so we're just going to do these at no extra charge for the gentleman, even though it does cost us out of pocket extra money, you know, for the material. But sometimes we got to do that, so we're going to put on new leather stacked heel bases for him. So All right, everyone, so I've got, as you can see, the bottom finished out. Did that off camera for now just because we are going to be taking care of the upper, and the video is going to get a little too long if I showed all that. We did a closed channel stitch, so once we're further along in the process, we're going to touch up that coloring there. I got the clinch nails all around the bottom here to really get everything settled in and gripping nicely. For any of you that don't know, clinch nails are these brass nails like that are very long. They're designed to go into the material and turn into a hook once they hit this cast iron last. And at last point, I almost put on the wrong heel blocks and didn't realize until I was recording that portion of the video. And so I got these JR leather stack pieces that I put together to start building up the heel base, because our goal is to try to make this more of a straight cut heel instead of a slanted western style there. But I'll go ahead and rough up on these sides and start putting that on. And as I start working at it, I got to figure out what angle I need to sand this piece down to, where I need to add more material, and just kind of layer it before I put the heels on there, or top lift heel for some of you that might be a little more familiar with my usual term for that. But yeah, that's how far along we are on it. Obviously, as you can tell, we went with the purple for the gentleman because he has a car that matches the color. This isn't the finished bottom stain. Once we are further along, I'll be cleaning up that JR logo area and doing a little more for that bottom finish afterwards. But during this process, kind of getting it to this stage is perfect stopping point, and then we'll get further along and get it down to what we need it to. All right, everyone, so I've got the new heel base on, and obviously the top lift heel here. We did a little bit more of a straight cut. I do angle it just a tiny bit. It's almost not even noticeable when you angle it on these. We did use stacked leather from JR. Obviously, we've got big sheets, and so we could use the pre-built heel bases a lot of times, but they're not quite up to par sometimes, and especially not on a pair of elephant skin boots like this. I'm not going to use them pre-built on that. So I built one up and just basically have to layer it and layer it. We've got everything nailed down from the inside, and they're ready to go. Basically, I'm just going to take this little edge skiver here and just kind of clean up this little small corner piece just a tiny bit, just like that. Makes it a nice final touch. Sometimes there's a little chunk in there.
How much were they? What were we? Don't worry about it. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Try to do this so you guys can kind of see it, but that small little detail makes it a nice final touch. But we still have to do the edging on it and everything. So I'm gonna actually hand these off to Marcus, who's gonna be working on the edging for me on these, and he's gonna be taking care of the upper because he's been kicking butt at re-dyeing stuff. And so put him in some very trustworthy hands while I'm trying to run around and finish out a bunch of other things. So I'll just do this one last one. But once he's done with it, or basically done, he's gonna do a treatment with some Saphir. Well, he's going to clean them up first because we did have that conditioner on there, and because we do have to retouch up the color, he's going to be cleaning them up first, most likely. I know he likes to use the Saphir Reno Matte a lot of times, so I think that's what he's going to start out with. And then he's going to move on to the Angelus acrylic paint, because on elephant skin it's very hard to actually dye, and so majority of those colored variants they use an acrylic based dye. So we're going to use that Angelus paint and restore the color, and then afterwards he's going to go through with the Medal d'Or Renovator because it has the mink oil and lanolin, so it's going to give it a nice condition. As far as waxes, usually you don't really need to wax these too much, but the problem is also because of the color on it. Putting on too much wax you have to be very careful with. So as he goes along, I'm sure he's going to make the decision himself on seeing what's going to be the best route to take, and I'll kind of leave it up to him and hand it off to him. Once he's done, I'll come back and we'll talk over what steps he actually ended up taking and go from there. Oh, and one other thing before I go, I almost forgot, I still got to cut out the new heel pads for it. So I'm not even going to use this as a trace pattern. This thing is so wonky shaped. I'm just going to make a new one for him and go from there. So we'll see you back in just a few. All right, everyone. and they're ready to go. Got the JR with the purple finish on the bottom. I ended up putting the new heel pad in there. I did something a little different. I had this chromed looking leather here that has like this purplish green hue to it that's also gray, and I thought, well, it's gonna be on the inside of the boot anyways. If it's just something that stands out too much, kind of gives that personal touch for that gentleman there. So thought I'd stick that in there as a heel pad and give it a little bit extra purple. Not too visible, but still just enough where it's cool. So now you see all the process and everything that it takes. There's a lot of other things on boots that can be done involving replacing welds and a number of other things. You could always check out some of our other videos where we've done that. I've got a pair that I'm working on right now where I just replaced the welt, and now I'm waiting for a few parts to come in that I'm out of stock of. But if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and join us for our daily videos where we talk about different products, accessories, different brands of footwear as well, and you know, what the great things about them are. So definitely check those out as well. And otherwise, we'll see everyone next time.